One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
From the second the bombshell dropped, Rachel Zegler hitting Trey Parker and Matt Stone with a jaw-dropping 9-figure defamation lawsuit, Hollywood went into full meltdown mode. You've got Rachel, a rising star, still picking up the pieces after the drama-filled disaster of Disney's Snow White remake, and facing off against two of the wildest, no-filter satirists in the game. Yep, the same creative beasts who built South Park into a cultural wrecking ball over nearly 30 years of chaos. What started as just another wild, no-chill parody episode from South Park turned real quick. Now, we're not just talking jokes. We're talking a courtroom showdown with massive reputations and insane money on the line. This isn't just another celebrity spat. This is full-on war between a Gen Z scream queen and two comedy legends who've roasted everything from politicians to pop idols without blinking once. The beef exploded when South Park aired an episode torching the never-ending drama around Rachel's so-called modern twist on Disney's OG animated princess. That one episode, it lit the internet on fire, and clearly Rachel wasn't having it. This isn't just headlines, it's history unfolding. So if you're loving this kind of hot tea, don't forget to smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe so you never miss another scandal like this one. Fire. In true Parker and Stone style, South Park didn't hold back, not even a little. The episode went all in, blowing up every headline into a wild fever dream that looked like the internet had come to life on acid. They twisted the whole debate about modernizing a classic into something totally unhinged. There she was, cartoon Rachel, strutting through a fairy tale kingdom, waving her smartphone like it was royal bling. She was dropping fiery takes left and right, ranting about historical accuracy, calling out studio execs, and flexing on social change like she was leading a revolution from her phone. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more insane, bam! A full-blown musical number hit the screen, dripping with sarcasm about how the public's sick of mega-budget remakes that try way too hard. The fans? Oh, they were loving it. Laughs echoed all over the internet. But behind the scenes, not so funny. Somewhere in LA, the real Rachel Zegler was watching, and her grin slowly vanished. Those animated burns hit way harder than anyone guessed. At first, some insiders thought she'd just brush it off. Plenty of stars have survived South Park's savage spotlight without calling in the legal squad. But nope, those guesses, dead wrong. TMZ dropped a headline louder than a jet engine. Say it louder so your other eye can hear you. Rachel Zegler weighing $100 million lawsuit over South Park episode. At first, people figured it was just a flex, maybe a power play for an apology. But then her legal team pulled up with papers in hand, accusing the show of straight-up wrecking her image, painting her as an entitled, out-of-touch diva who tanked a blockbuster. This wasn't shade. This was war. Rachel Zegler wasn't playing games. Her lawsuit came in hot, accusing Parker and Stone of crossing a major line. The legal docs claimed the South Park episode didn't just parody her. It went straight for the jugular, painting her as the one to blame for the entire Snow White disaster. One of the wildest parts? The animation suggested she was personally skimming cash from the production. Yeah, like she had her hand in the cookie jar while the crew snacked on crumbs from a so-called budget of $40 million. Her team didn't find that funny at all. They said those gags weren't just jokes. They were flat-out lies meant to crush her rep. And it didn't stop there. The lawsuit claimed that the second the episode aired, Hollywood doors started slamming shut. Casting calls? Gone. One studio even told her team they were going to wait for the dust to settle before making any moves. For Rachel, that was all the proof she needed. South Park had cost her serious money. Just as the news dropped, Parker and Stone were wrapping a writers' meeting at their HQ in Culver City. That's when the buzz hit, literally. Staffers' phones started blowing up with alerts from Variety and Deadline. The vibe in the room? Tense, but not panicked. The two co-creators just locked eyes, half irritated, half amused. After all, this wasn't their first rodeo. Over the years, they've taken heat from religious groups, corporate giants, and even protesters outside Comedy Central. But this felt different, and way more personal. No actor had ever asked for this kind of money from a single TV episode. Rachel's $100 million lawsuit sent shockwaves through the South Park offices. The writer's room, caught between disbelief and panic, broke into nervous laughter. Someone joked, "Well, guess we're finally worth $100 million each." But beneath the sarcasm, real tension. Trey and Matt knew times had changed. Back in 1997, South Park could get away with wild jokes under the radar, tucked safely inside late-night cable slots. Now, one scene can hit TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube in seconds, blasting across a global audience that's way more divided and way more vocal. And if a court actually ruled that their Snow White spoof was defamatory, that wouldn't just mess with future episodes. It could shake their entire empire. We're talking a $1 billion deal with Paramount Plus, stuffed with spin-offs, movies, and more. One bad ruling could turn the kings of comedy into liabilities overnight. Social media lit up like fireworks, completely split down the middle. On one side, people who saw Rachel as a victim of online hate. They backed her move and called it brave, saying she was finally standing up to what they called animation harassment. On the flip side, a loud crew claimed Trey and Matt were the last real soldiers fighting for no-holds-barred comedy. They threw their support behind the trending hashtag, #, satire is not slander. Even late-night talk shows jumped in, poking fun at the princess versus paper cutout court battle. But behind the jokes, one thing was crystal clear. South Park wasn't just in hot water, they were in a full-blown firestorm. As legal experts packed every cable news panel, arguing over whether a cartoon could legally count as a factual attack, things inside South Park studios were heating up fast. Behind those closed doors, Parker and Stone huddled with their team deep into the night, turning what looked like a joke gone wrong into the most serious sit-down of their careers. Their gut instinct: turn the drama into gold and make it an episode. After all, South Park has never been shy about putting its own mess under the microscope. But their lawyers hit the brakes hard, warning that mocking the lawsuit on air could come off as petty revenge, or worse, proof of ongoing damage. For two guys who built their empire on poking every bear in sight, staying silent wasn't just weird, it was painful. Still, for once, they listened. No statements, no jokes, nothing, at least not yet. But, behind the scenes, the creative chaos was very real. They had a puppet court scene where their animated alter egos took the stand under oath. A sad little musical called Sue Me Gently had everyone in stitches. And yes, they even sketched out courtroom drawings that looked like a toddler went wild with crayons on purpose. None of it made it to air, yet. But those scripts sat in a folder, just begging to be unleashed. Meanwhile, whispers started swirling about Rachel's mindset. Friends close to her said she was bouncing between fierce determination and full-on emotional overload. This wasn't just a legal fight. It was turning into something way more personal. Rachel Zegler wasn't just trying to grab a paycheck. She was trying to take control of her image before it got locked in as a punchline. According to insiders, she saw the lawsuit as more than financial payback. This was her way of sending a loud message to Hollywood big shots. She wasn't going to just sit back and get clowned on without a fight. Critics were quick to roll their eyes, calling her response over the top. They pointed out that icons like Tom Cruise, Kanye West, and even the Queen of England had been roasted way worse on South Park, and they didn't blink. But Rachel's supporters clapped back hard. They said it's not the same game. Those stars, they've been around for decades, with massive fan bases that don't flinch over memes and TikToks. Rachel, she's still climbing the ladder. Every public misstep or viral joke hits different when you're trying to prove yourself in a cutthroat industry. As the lawsuit crawled through the Los Angeles Superior Court, Parker and Stone finally broke their silence, but not with a full-blown rant. Instead, they dropped a tight 2-sentence statement. "We believe strongly in the right to parody public figures and public events. We look forward to a vigorous defense of that right." Short, sharp, straight to the point. No drama, just a clear signal. This fight was about principle, not pettiness. Still, word from inside the studio said the guys were itching to turn this mess into an all-time classic episode the moment the legal green light flashed. Sketches, scripts, jokes, they were ready. Legal experts, meanwhile, were gearing up for a landmark case. The whole thing now hinged on one razor-thin question. When does parody cross the line into defamation? Courts had usually backed satire, as long as no sane viewer could take it seriously. But this time, the line was blurrier than ever. In the now infamous South Park episode, cartoon Rachel belts out a song claiming she rewrote classic Snow White scenes just to cash more checks. Fans saw it as a wild exaggeration, a joke, plain and simple. But Rachel's legal team wasn't laughing. Her lawyers argued that not everyone could tell the difference between satire and fact. They pointed to social media posts where people actually believed she admitted to hijacking the film's direction. In their eyes, the parody didn't just push boundaries, it blurred reality and messed with the public's perception of who she really was. But Parker and Stone's defenders fired back hard. They said the whole thing was so over the top, so ridiculous, that it could only be seen as a joke. Thousands of tweets and forum threads were filled with people cracking up at how absurd the episode was, not taking it seriously for a second. That absurdity, they claimed, was the point. To entertain, not to accuse. Then things took an even juicier turn. Disney quietly stepped into the background. Whispers started circulating that the Mouse House was low-key watching the courtroom drama unfold. Why? Because if this case went deep enough, there was a real chance it could expose their own dirty laundry, especially anything tied to budget overruns and behind-the-scenes chaos on the Snow White remake. Even though Disney wasn't named in the lawsuit, their fingerprints were all over it. Insiders said lawyers at the studio were already gearing up to block subpoenas, especially the ones targeting internal emails or memos that even mentioned Parker and Stone's parody. One thing was clear. This case wasn't just about jokes anymore. It had turned into a high-stakes legal landmine, and no one wanted to be the next name dragged into the spotlight. As both sides geared up for war, the defense floated a bold move. They might argue the South Park episode was actually built on facts that had already been blasted all over the media. But with a trial date officially locked in for early next year, the countdown began. Both camps now had months to prepare for what could be one of the most talked about legal battles in Hollywood. The timing? Brutal. Reporters quickly clocked that the trial could collide head-on with awards season. If Rachel scored any major roles, she'd be strutting red carpets, while the lawsuit kept her name in every headline. Talk about high-stakes PR pressure. Meanwhile, South Park would be deep in the writer's room for a brand new season. The second the legal gag order lifted, fans knew there was a real chance the guys would fire back on air. Entertainment lawyers whispered about a possible settlement to avoid the media chaos. A private deal, sealed behind closed doors, could spare both sides the circus. But Parker and Stone weren't budging. They made it clear they would not pay to keep making jokes. Trey even told a colleague, "If we pay up now, the next joke dies before we even write it." Their position struck a nerve and a chord with free speech advocates. The American Civil Liberties Union jumped in, filing an amicus brief that came out swinging in defense of satire. The brief argued that parody plays a vital watchdog role. It claimed Hollywood stars are often wrapped in PR armor, protected by studios obsessed with image control. Without satire, the public would never get to see behind the curtain. Meanwhile, Rachel's camp launched their own low-key media push. Instead of framing the suit as an attack on comedy, they started shifting the narrative. This wasn't about crushing free speech. It was about one person fighting back when things got way too personal. Rachel Zegler, once just a rising actress, was now under a blinding spotlight, dragged through months of online jokes, memes, and finally that animated South Park parody watched by millions. Then came her appearance on late-night TV, but not on the usual edgy circuit. She chose a show known for its calmer vibe, and she got real. Holding back tears, but keeping her cool, Rachel spoke directly to the audience. She said she respected satire, but she wasn't okay with reckless misrepresentations that could wreck someone's career. Her words hit home, sparking another media frenzy. Some outlets praised her bravery, others slammed her as too sensitive for the spotlight. Meanwhile, social media stayed locked in full combat mode. Team Rachel and Shakshuka Team South Park started trending again, trading meme for meme and clip for clip. One side posted montages of South Park's past roasts, presidents, A-listers, even royals, arguing Rachel got off light. The other side dropped deep-dive Twitter threads, breaking down how negative portrayals can kill deals, cancel castings, and mess with someone's mental peace for real. The internet turned up the volume, and any middle ground takes, drowned out by trolls, hot takes, and viral noise. Then came the first pre-trial hearing, expected to be routine, but it turned into a media circus. Reporters flooded the courthouse, hoping for a soundbite. The gallery was packed, and cameras flashed like it was the Oscars. Parker and Stone showed up dressed the part, quiet suits, clean cuts, but they couldn't help slipping in a smirk here and there. That South Park flair, still there, just under the surface. By this point, it was clear. This wasn't just a legal fight. It was a culture war, wrapped in comedy, fame, and one very public question. How far is too far when the punchline hits a real person? But in this digital age, where every joke can go viral in seconds and every misstep gets frozen in memes, even comedy legends like Parker and Stone had to face the truth. Satire might be free, but it's not free of consequences. In Hollywood's ever-growing storybook of scandals and showdowns, this clash will stand out as a loud, unforgettable chapter. 1. Cartoon. Just a few minutes of animated madness. That's all it took to ignite a multi-million-dollar legal war, forcing the world to ask, when does humour stop being funny and start becoming harmful? Where's the line between creative freedom and someone's reputation getting shredded? In the end, nobody walked away untouched. Rachel came out stronger, seen as someone who wouldn't just roll over when the spotlight turned ugly. She earned respect, not just for acting, but for standing her ground. And South Park. They didn't fold, but they came out with a new kind of awareness. Even the boldest punchlines can echo longer and louder than ever before, affecting real people far beyond the cartoon frame. Years from now, this case might live on in law school lectures or pop culture recaps. A princess versus paper cutout saga that once gripped Hollywood like wildfire. But for those who lived it, the message was crystal clear. Creativity and criticism aren't enemies. They're dance partners, pushing and pulling, shaping what we dare to say and how far we're willing to go to say it. If you've been riding with us through this wild ride, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Catch you next time.